Most of you who are young like me, we were born in this system. But this is not what can allow Burkina to live. Because in this situation, there are only two cases. Either we accept to fight, or we remain slaves forever, I tell you once. And there are some who are slaves in the head. They can only serve their master. And these people, each time they try to manipulate you, you must advise each other.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing fine. Now, Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso, is now calling out all puppet leaders, both in Africa and in the Caribbean. Now, he's calling back our black Americans to come and give back the ideas that they have borrowed from the other side of the world to build Africa. Now, he wants Africa to unite with the Caribbean and all black people back in their own continent. Now, he calls out all puppet leaders to resign and leave power to those people who will work for their citizens. So let's watch this video, then have a quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
Because each situation can be exploited by these enemies of the nation to try to discourage you, to demotivate you. So you must advise each other and do not pay attention to certain words, even on certain media. Everyone is not obliged to be a patriot. You are the first patriots. You have decided to defend the country. There is nothing better than that. Those who want to support you, let them support you. Those who want to discourage you through writing, you must close your ears and move forward.
Alors, il faut qu'on se rappelle quelque chose.
We must remember something. Recently, there was a so-called NGO. It is not even a NGO because a NGO is a non-governmental organization. But they are not non-governmental because they are financed by a federal budget, by a state. This so-called NGO produces reports to say that the FDS and the VDP are carrying out executions. They came in and left here. It is to stain your morale. It is to scare you, to prevent you from being able to fight. No. Besides, we will take this NGO into account because people must understand something.
Il faut que les gens comprennent quelque chose. Ce qui nous arrive ici.
What is happening to us here? It is true that they have manipulated a part of our population in the Sahel. But they did not have this armament. What led to this important armament? It is Libya. Who destroyed Libya? It is this NGO, the same NGO that made these false reports and gave to whoever wanted to create a rebellion for people to intervene and make Gaddafi fall. And the powder is spilled in the Sahel. These millions of lives that were taken in the Sahel, we must take into account this NGO because it is responsible for these false reports that it made to consolidate this thesis of attacking Libya. They have no moral lessons to give us. Look at the world. Let them defend human rights everywhere in the world before coming here. We have the chance to have similar situations in this world. You are engaged voluntarily. There are countries where we take force, we kill. You leave or you die. Others, even if they want to flee, end up dying. They do not speak of human rights because these people see us as subhumans. They see us as slaves. It's like that in their heads. They have never changed their logic. But it is up to us to show them that we are not slaves and we will never accept this state of affairs. So there is no need to let yourself be overwhelmed by the story they tell. Whoever wants to hear it, you have to stay focused on your fight. Stay focused. We know what we are doing. And even now, the commander of BVDP told me that there is a training session on human rights for the benefit of group leaders and their subordinates, which is ongoing. If we make an effort, we know that it is for us. We do not do anything to please anyone. We do it for our country. And you are committed to that. Defend your country. Do not listen to these individuals. They should not affect your morale.
Dans l'histoire du monde, il y a eu des guerres.
In the history of the world, there have been wars. And during the Second World War, people organized themselves to defend themselves, a little bit everywhere.
Mais il y a un pays qui ne pouvait pas se défendre.
But there was a country that could not defend itself, that had to come and take our ancestors to go and defend them.
Et aujourd'hui, ce même pays veut nous donner des leçons.
And today, this same country wants to teach us the hospital that laughs at charity.
Non. Vous êtes les descendants
No,
de ces mêmes ancêtres.
you are the descendants of these same ancestors who went to defend the others, who freed the world from Nazism.
Aujourd'hui, vous vous battez pour vos terres. Ces mêmes
Today, you fight for your
individus
lands. These same individuals dare to create terms to dirty you.
Nous nous opposons à cela. Nous ne serons
We
jamais
oppose
d'accord.
this. We will never agree.
Continuez à défendre vos terres. Ce sont vos richesses qui intéressent ces gens.
Continue to defend your lands. It is your wealth that interests these people. It is our
Sinon,
gold,
pourquoi
our
privilégier
minerals that interest
les
them.
gentils pour s'accaparer de nos terres? Donc, nous allons combattre et nous allons
If
occuper nos
not,
terres, nos
why come
richesses,
and
ça
look
nous
for
appartient,
entire
c'est
villages
nous,
to
c'est à
take
nous,
our
c'est à
lands?
nous. Et à
So
nos
we will
enfants.
fight and we will recover our lands. Our
Je
wealth
vous
belongs to
encourage
us.
donc à garder
It is
en
to
mémoire
us that it will
que cette
benefit
guerre,
and to
c'est
our
pour nous
children.
sortir de l'esclavage.
So I encourage you to keep in mind that this war is to get us out of slavery. It is for our independence. And you must keep your morale high. Stay up. We will never give in to the manipulators, to these individuals who no longer know this notion of homeland, or to these people who come from the outside to try to tame us through their terms that they invented and their organisms that they invented to serve us.
Combattez, avancez.
Fight. Move forward.
Tout ce que vous pouvez.
Do everything you
Puisez,
can.
comme j'ai dit,
Dive, as I said, into your cultural resources, into what you have been forging since the village.
puisez dedans.
Dive into it and wage this war.
Restez concentrés.
Stay focused and stay up.
Vous êtes ces gens-là qui ont osé.
You are those people who dared to take up arms to support the different forces of defense and security,
Pour lutter.
to fight to recover our lands.
Ce n'est pas permis à tout le monde. Chacun à son
This does
niveau
not apply to everyone.
ce qu'il peut.
Everyone at his level can do what he can.
Sont dans le commerce et
Others are in business and contribute.
essaient de communiquer pour vous encourager.
Others try to communicate to encourage you.
Essaient, en tout cas, chacun de sa position.
Others try to do what they can,
Mais vous avez décidé de
but you have decided to take up arms and face them.
On aime de dire en temps de guerre, il y a deux types
We
de
like to say
citoyens.
that in times of war, there are two types of
Les
citizens.
porteurs de tenue,
Those who wear uniforms called FDS, who must go towards death. It is their duty.
et les civils qui doivent fuir.
And the civilians who must flee death because they are not trained for it.
Mais dans l'histoire des peuples, il arrive
But in the
toujours
history of
ces
peoples,
moments où vous vous retrouvez
there is
confronté.
always a moment when you find yourself confronted with your existence.
Soit vous vous battez ou vous disparaissez.
Either you fight or you
Aujourd'hui, le
disappear.
Burkina fait face à son destin.
Today, Burkina faces
C'est une
its
question
destiny.
d'existence.
It is a question of existence.
Et à ces moments cruciaux,
And at this
parmi ces
crucial
civils
moment,
qui devraient donner d'eau à la
among those civilians who must give water to death,
de prendre les armes et faire face. et
you have
accompagner
decided
les
to
frères.
take up arms and face and support your brothers in arms.
Nous ne pouvons pas finir de vous rendre hommage.
We cannot
Nous ne pouvons
stop
pas
paying
finir de
tribute
vous
to you.
magnifier, nous ne pouvons pas finir de vous
We cannot
glorifier.
stop magnifying you. We cannot stop glorifying you. You are from Burkina Faso, and that is all we have
Vous avez
asked.
fait face à l'ennemi sans pour autant
You have
connaître
faced the enemy without knowing the enemy,
à fond, sans pour autant connaître, avoir les mêmes capacités que les forces.
without having the same capabilities as the security forces.
Beaucoup d'entre vous ont payé,
But you have faced it.
mais vous continuez à
Many of you have paid for their lives, but you continue to
Que pouvons-nous
resist.
faire pour améliorer vos conditions de travail?
What can we do to improve your working conditions? That is combat.
La première des choses, le VDP existe.
First of all,
depuis
the
plusieurs
FDS has existed for several years,
années, n'était pas équipé.
but it was not equipped, especially the notion of individual weapons. I think that this problem is more or less solved. All those who are VDP in the villages today have weapons. Anyway, there are still many who want to join, I am sure. All the villagers might want to be VDP, but we will go step by step. Because we have also asked the civilians to contribute, as I told you earlier, up to a level that should allow you to take charge. That is why in January we decided to go to another level in terms of prices, but also in terms of taking charge to injure and ensure a certain minimum. The equipment will continue, and everything that can be done to accompany you, it will continue to grow. As we advance in the fight, you are identified, you are known, and you are a block in the different communes. That is why I ordered that we order clothes to start equipping little by little. But the ideal for me is not to buy clothes from abroad. We need to be able to design new types of clothes for you, and we want these clothes to be made here. That is why we are accelerating the establishment of the factory that must produce our clothes, because I want there to be a particular model, a special outfit for this army that has the BVDP too. So this is a question that will be resolved. And what is more normal is that you are dressed by ourselves through our cotton that has been transformed here. But I urge you to never lose focus. We must not be surprised. We must not sleep. We never lower our arms. Today, look at the volume of terrorists who attack Burkina Faso. Did you imagine that there was such a thing in Burkina Faso? They were there, covered in darkness, what we call dormant cells, because those who kept us in this situation, the day they wanted, it was enough for them to say to the government, "We did this. If you refuse, they will activate, and we must fight." These are enemies of the nation. They decided to attack their country. We must fight them. It is without mercy. The other thing is between yourselves. You must overcome a certain number of events and do not let yourself be manipulated. When there are events, we must avoid making interpretations or let ourselves be manipulated. I say this very often because human beings often forget God when they have no problem, when they are in happiness. But when worries come, this is when we remember God. Give thanks every day for the breath of life and for health. Youth from Burkina Faso, youth from Africa, youth, this phase of life where we have enough strength, enough energy, like the paraphrase, the slammer that has just passed. Youth is the time when we have spent enough time. We must take advantage of the time we have been given. Use the energy necessary to reach our goals, to change the world, to change our world, to change the world of others positively. Children want to grow up to be young. Older people want to grow up to be young. Everyone wants to be young. Youth is a blessing. So take advantage of youth to do useful work. This is why when I see in the chosen theme the first two words that come to mind, integration, security. Africa faces many challenges, and we must ask ourselves questions. Is youth an asset or a handicap for the development of nations? The answer is simple and unequivocal, and you know it. Developed countries mostly have an aging population, and currently many countries have launched programs to rejuvenate their populations. Africa has this chance to have a very young population. But why is Africa not developed? We must therefore look at the question of why Africa has a young population and why it is not developed, and why developed countries seek to rejuvenate their populations. We must transform our youth into a real asset and engine of development for our continent. To do this, we need integration. We need security and development. We need to unite. You will hear about the African Union. Yes, it exists, but what is the effect of the African Union? We cannot talk about integration and not talk about the African Union, because it is this organization that should unite us, create real integration. But we regret to see this war that persists on the African continent, that kills millions of young people, and that this organization, which has the head of state provided with an army, cannot organize itself to support certain countries. The Union is not just a word, the Union is a symbol. And we young people should learn from this situation to unite us to make integration a reality. I was unpleasantly surprised when Ethiopia, which is the seat of the African Union, experienced a conflict, and when the Prime Minister announced to close the university in Addis Ababa to face the threat, I did not see the action of the African Union to protect this seat. Western states, for the most part, saw Addis Ababa fall, fold their backpacks, and leave. Ethiopia fought, found an internal solution, and lives more or less in peace today. The children of Congo have been dying for years. Several other conflicts, such as in Sudan, exist on the continent. We would have liked to see the African Union generate the strength and all the strategies necessary to support its states so that they can find peace. We will not even talk about us here in the Sahel. For nearly 10 years, the Sahel has been the scene of international terrorism. But we see no support from these organizations to find a solution to this problem. Worse, a few days ago, a foreign country in Africa openly announced that it had supported and participated in a cowardly, terrorist, and barbaric attack against the forces of our confederation. The African Union did not say a word to condemn this interference. The African Union did not say a word to condemn this interference of a foreign state in Africa in the internal affairs of our states. I would like them to hear this shout and get out of their silence and take action so that the youth can believe in the African Union. We must unite. The only way to unite is to talk to each other, to understand each other, and to be able to establish the basis of this unity. Young people, let me tell you that to unite, there are three words, Three big screws that we must ban from our behavior and our lives.
Je parle de la lâcheté, la traîtrise.
I am talking about cowardice, treachery, and incompetence.
Il faut bannir.
We must ban these three words from our way of life.
De notre mode de vie.
I am going to explain why.
Pourquoi. La lâcheté recouvre beaucoup de vices.
Cowardice covers many screws.
A toujours peur. Et lorsqu'on a peur,
a coward is always afraid. And when we are afraid, we become slaves. We bend. We lick our boots. Our ancestors were not cowardly.
Et si nous sommes lâches, nos enfants vont nous...
And if we are cowardly, our children will ask us questions.
Nous refusions de nous battre. Et nous acceptons de nous...
Imagine that in Burkina Faso we refuse to fight and we accept to submit, to live in slavery.
Nos parents ont-ils été des lâches pour nous laisser...
Tomorrow our children will grow up and they will ask themselves questions. Have our parents been cowardly to leave us in slavery? Whether we are alive or dead, we will feel it. Cowardice is afraid, and the imperialists have understood that they are trying to scare the leaders so that they become cowards. Because when you are a coward, all the other screws can be born. We do everything so that we are afraid. They come to our palaces. They threaten us directly or with veiled threats. Of course, we respond as it is necessary. They try to make us understand. They take examples every time. They tell us, you know, Thomas Sankara tried to do this, but he is dead. President Haitian tried to do this, but he is dead. Gaddafi tried to do this, but he is dead. These are words that we take in a veiled way to scare us. And we often see some young people trying to take our path in a different way. We can hear them say, such and such person ruled like this, he is in his country. Such and such person ruled like this, he is in prison. All this to try to scare us so that we become cowards. But I think they didn't understand one thing. When we say country or death, we win. It's not just a sentence. It's not just a sentence. It all makes sense. We are not afraid and we will never be afraid.
Ils ont fait peur sûrement à beaucoup de chefs d'État africains.
They probably scared a lot of African heads of state. They probably scared a lot of African heads of state. You see, often when we express ourselves or when we have the opportunity to be in certain situations abroad, we often say something to call on African heads of state to wake up and take care of our youth so that we can start our real development. We are often misunderstood. Some have publicly opposed us. Some have publicly opposed us because they feel indexed. But I can assure you, youth, that when we find ourselves in the corridors, these same heads of state tell us that we are on the right track and that this is what needs to be done so that Africa can rise again. So we ask them questions like, why don't you do like us? Why don't you support us? Some tell us that they have the means, and some tell us that they can't. Dear elders, African heads of state, at the end of this podium, I would like to say that African peoples are the most peaceful. That African peoples are the most peaceful. When you recognize a wrong, you have to tell the people. When you recognize a wrong, you have to tell the people. We are not afraid to come out and tell the people we are sorry, we have been compromised, We have been mistreated, we have been compromised by several things, and we ask for forgiveness, and we come back on the right path and to start working really for the independence of our states and our emancipation.
Now, brothers and sisters, I really want us to embrace this very bold topic. I feel like everyone has been diverting their attention of whatever has been happening in West Africa. Now, over 2 years ago, Ibrahim Traoré took over through a coup d'etat in Burkina Faso to become the artillery president of that country. Now, under 2 years, we've seen whatever he has been able to do. We've seen the influence that he has brought about, and we've seen how he has stood for the people of that country. First, let me say this. I'm not here today to support coup d'etat around Africa or the world, but I'm here to talk about the good things that the people of Africa deserve from their leaders. Now, it is only in Africa that we've been seeing these things happening, that the Western countries still have total control of our elections, and no one is actually talking about this. When did this start? Do we even have something called independence? I don't think so. That's why we are seeing so many people are very angry with Ibrahim Traoré and many other leaders who do not support the Western policies, or those who have not been in a position actually to go around and propagate their malicious policies in the black countries. Now, we've seen how much atrocities have been caused by the Western countries. Let's talk the likes of France. France has never left West Africa. Years after independence, their military still wanders around in the deserts and in the beaches of West Africa. The same thing happens to the whole of the African continent. The US has military bases in almost 13 countries in Africa. What are they doing in Africa? There are enough problems in the US for the military to go and support other wars. I don't think if it is necessary, they be in Africa. They are just here to continue the same narrative. Exploitation of black resources. And that's whatever one thing that our black leaders never want to address, because 90% of the leaders we have are puppets in black countries. All the way from the Caribbean, come to Africa. All faces I see faces of traitors, puppets who take orders from the West. And that's why we've been having the same state of our countries over years. Come to Africa. Ghana got independence in 1957. How many years down the line? 77 years. But can you go and see the state of Ghana to date? Where did they go wrong? What really happened? The biggest problem we have in Africa, it's not even the West. It is the leaders we have. It's the leaders we elect. We elect them, they go and betray us. As much as system in the Western countries favor them, but I think they have ideas. The ideological differences between them and the West should not actually set ablaze our countries. It's not a must to talk the language of the Western countries, and that's whatever Ibrahim Traoré is saying. I just want us to pick the very positive sides of this discussion, that however much we really talk in Africa without brutal honesty of things that are happening in our own continent, we are doomed. Go to Caribbean, see how much Caribbean has been invaded. No one is talking about that. Our economies are doing so bad. No one addresses that. But when there is a war that has been facilitated by the Western countries, it's our countries that take our sons and daughters, that takes our brothers and sisters to those sides. I'm here to actually understand whatever role Kenya and so many other countries in Africa, Jamaica, and so many other countries that have really big problems were doing in Haiti, which was a crisis that the people are crying out to the government. There are so many rebels just because the government is not working for the people, and the people want accountability. The people want the Western country domination in that side of the Caribbean to end. What is so hard about that? They want their puppet leaders to go down. What's so hard about that? That's why we have so many rebels around Africa and in so many black countries. So I'm just here to say but a few things. Let's wake up. Jamaica, black Americans, wherever you are watching this video from, fellow African men, brothers and sisters, this is their time. No one is going to save us. They wanted us gone. They wanted to wipe us away, to wipe us out. But the nature hasn't allowed them to do so. So they are looking for ways to always be in control. And brothers and sisters, this is our chance to stand tall and say no to oppressive and exploitation of our own resources. Thank you so much.